Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning. Welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Last week, Preakness, and so I thought we'd reach out and talk a little Preakness with some of our guests this morning and more. Down in Baltimore last week, Bob Ehalt covering the action for the Bloodhorse, and he also had another article recently that I wanted to touch on. Hey, Bob, good morning.
Well, good morning, Seth. How are you today?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. And as I say, we'll hit on some Preakness action and get some thoughts from you on what went on in jewel number 2 of the Triple Crown, as it were. But before we did that, you had a nice article that came out on Thursday at the Bloodhorse, and I would tout people to go over and check it out. Title, Fixed Odds Wagering at Monmouth Slow but Promising. And I'm dying to know early on how things are working, and you talked with the folks over at Monmouth, so give us the update on how fixed odds are working now that they've been underway for a couple of weeks at Monmouth.
Yeah, they seem, going slow. The betting is slow. They're saying that, and they knew that was going to happen. They only have about 6 windows open at Monmouth Park, and only wager on track. So they knew they were not going to get a big handle on this, and they haven't. They're probably in the tens of thousands a day, nothing huge. It is an interesting concept. I think can be rewarding for people. Like anything, you have to understand that might times it doesn't work out for you. It's price on fixed odds, you wind up giving you a better price on the pari-mutuel wagering. Like if you bet a football game, you bet, you get points. So days later, they might be getting 8 points. Well, you've got to. So the long run, things will work out, and for the most part, it's I charted about 70% of the winning payoff. Final tote price, the final fixed odds price, was better than the tote price, and I think there's some really good potential there.
Yeah, and I was going to note that. I found that kind of amazing that, as you say, looking at your article, the fixed odds price on the winner was higher than the pari-mutuel, just under 70% of the time, which I wonder if, you say the betting's a little slow now, but I wonder if people look at numbers like that and will be a little more attracted to taking fixed odds.
Yeah, I think, as I say, they're not always going to reward you with a better payoff. You have to understand that. Or at certain times, though, I think it could pay off for you. One of them would be with horses who are odds-on prices. That one I saw almost virtually every time you're getting a better fixed odds payoff where you will through the tote, where the prices get hammered at the very end. Now, look at it. If you're a $2 bettor and you're getting $3.40 on the tote, or $20 on the fixed odds, that's 50 cents. If you bet $2, that's not really going to help you that much. But if you're betting $50 on that horse because he looks good, they're not capped. The caps are about $3,000 or $5,000 in profit before they'll put your bet and assess it. And they might approve it. I mean, that's tremendous payoff. You say on that $50 bet, maybe you're getting an extra $20 on your win price on a horse who looks like a sure thing. There's a lot of it, and then there's other ways where you can look a sneak peek at the double will pays. Anticipate that a certain horse is going to get hit on the tote. You submit a good price on the fixed. I think it adds a little bit more of a challenge to handicappers, but I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. And to pass that time between the 5 minutes or so between races, to shop around and make some decisions.
To be honest, I hadn't even really thought about that, but it makes sense that if a big bettor, a whale-type bettor comes in, they're going to have their bet approved at the set odds. I guess, as I say, it makes sense. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I just think there's a lot of potential for it, and hopefully some of the bigger tracks. I mean, Naira has shown some interest in it, but I mean, they still know that they have to go through the gaming commissions and put through proposals. It's not just something they could say, hey, we'll do it tomorrow. You got to get a little bit more serious about. And yes, we're going to go to our gaming commission. We'll work with Monmouth. We'll do it and set it. And I think when the bigger tracks get involved, especially when things go online and go online across the country, then you're going to really start to see some action, and you'll see how it goes. And especially if they could do it, doing it with the Derby, where maybe you could get 70-1 on a maiden that nobody heard of. So there's a lot of good possibilities with it. It's going to be a question of how fast it grows. They are hoping to have everything in place and have it up and running in good shape by Haskell Day.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned in your article and was mentioned in the lead up that fixed odds don't run into overseas is turf races that get moved off onto the dirt. They still haven't quite figured out what to do there.
Yeah, that's something they're looking at. That's one of the, this bet is very popular overseas. Now, one of the things here overseas, all the races, but all the tracks, but the track, all they have is turf racing. So, off the turf. They can't do any dirt racing. If they come off the turf, then they cancel racing. Now, so what they're doing is they've applied, we have the enforcement, a new house rule, where what they could then do is once they up the turf, will refund all of the bets, the new pool with it as a dirt race. What thing now is to bet on the race, and what they are trying to do, hold off on betting on the turf races. They have a real good feel that the weather's going to be good. What we'll do is if you race while it's listed as a turf race, you have the ability go and get your money back. Now you have to do it before the race is over. So there could be problems if you bet the day before, because sometimes wagering's available 24 hours in advance. Rule right now that you can you're based on refunding the tickets. In some cases, probably if you bet a dirt horse, you probably got pretty good odds, right? So you want to probably keep it. So now that's kind of how they're handling it. Certainly, I think it's a lot fairer. The race is off the dirt, the race is off the turf. Give everybody their money back and start anew with wagering, which in some cases might happen maybe small pools with that's the amount of money, and you're not going to kill the price. The next guy, you're not going to get that fixed price you put in because you put $200 to win on this horse. But you yourself are going to be okay in wagering that way.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. They're clearly the test case here, and we're early in it, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in New Jersey and then potentially moves to other jurisdictions. I think it has a lot of potential, but again, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and kind of let them work the kinks out and get it running a little more smoothly. Let's shift attention now. Let's go back to last week. You were down in Baltimore for the Preakness. While we talk, I'll pull up the replay. I'll tell people to take a look at number 8, Epicenter, and folks can decide for themselves. I was not faulting Joel Rosario. I think about 100 yards out of the gate, the door closed on him as two horses came from the inside and the outside to close it up. And at that point, his options started to be limited. Early voting, on the other hand, a really nice ride from Jose Ortiz. And given the early position by Epicenter, I thought getting up for second was a big run from him. What were your thoughts in the Preakness last week?
Yeah, I got pretty much similar thoughts. I mean, look, the break, why it happened like that, was it the horse was just slow? Was it that Rosario wasn't as aggressive as he should have been? Whatever reason it happened, himself in a tight spot early on a couple of occasions. He's next to last, and on that particular track, he was in big trouble. And this wasn't mountable speed bias because the dirt race, the Sir Barton Serial Road, had come from behind and won. So you could come from behind and win. Against a really good horse like Early Voting, he was the best horse in the race. He ran a real winning race. Out there, had the target he needed, followed it, he got in front, he closed well, everything worked out. You know, he was a deserving winner. You know, yeah, with Epicenter, I don't think Epicenter lost a lot of his luster by finishing second again. He's been second in the Derby, second in the Preakness. Right now, if you had to pick a top 3-year-old, my estimation, he gets the narrow nod because of his consistency. And you know the race again. He ran a real good race the second. Minister, who was third, also I thought ran a nice race because again the track really wasn't playing for closers. I thought he ran a good effort as a young developing horse, and he might be a good he might be one to watch in the Belmont Stakes when he comes back.
We'll hit on the Belmont in a moment and maybe get some early thoughts there, but I wanted to continue on the weekend. And again, you wrote about a number of the races, and one of the races you wrote about was the day before on Friday, the Pimlico Special, and our friends at West Point. I thought First Captain for Shug probably was going to have to step it up. I thought he did. We have the stretch run here to the Pimlico Special. The two Todd Pletcher horses, Vindictive, the number 1, and Untreated, the number 3, looked pretty good about mid-stretch, but as has been his fashion, First Captain gets rolling and rolls by him late. So again, Pimlico Special, I thought, added another interesting name to what is turning out to be a really interesting handicap division this year.
Yeah, I think certainly the target for him is going to be the Whitney. The Whitney Stakes at Saratoga, which could really be a blockbuster. But yeah, I think Chuck was kind of after the Carter when he really didn't fire at all.
Yeah.
I spoke with him after the a little couple of days after the race, and is the word okay? What happened? And he said, I don't see anything wrong with him. I don't know why he ran like that. I think he had some blinkers. Just felt maybe getting him 2 turns was really going to bring out the best in him, and that's exactly what happened. Look, this is a horse they paid $1.5 million for, so they have confidence in him. And he's running to that kind of price tag. I think against a good field in the Pimlico Special. It's have to step up in class when he goes into the Whitney because, you're talking about seeing a horse like maybe Life is Good back in that race and such. And, the other horses in the handicap division will be there, or another good one, maybe not all of them, but a number of them. So I think it'll be interesting how he moves forward off the race, but it looked like the 2 turns and everything really worked out well for him, especially the way he kind of picked it up in the final 1/8 of a mile.
And before we let you go, early thoughts on the Belmont Stakes. You mentioned Creative Minister, and I see you did a little piece as well, Bloodhorse, talking to Safi Joseph about Skippy Longstockings. Again, early thoughts, a couple of weeks away, the Belmont Stakes.
Well, I think the Belmont Stakes is going to be the defining moment for Rich. I mean, he won the Derby, great race, 80-1, and he was 80-1 for a reason. Now, this sometimes run the race of their life. Now, this times in the speed figures, people call it the knockout number. You get to a certain number, and you're not going to go beyond that. That'll be interesting to see what happens with Rich. I think the Connections made a good move for themselves to give themselves the 5 weeks off. And that's Pimlico. I don't think he would have won the race by any means. I think the Belmont might be more. We'll find out if he really is the horse. What we saw on Derby Day is the real Rich Strike, or is he? Was he an 80-1 shot that is going to have minutes of fame on the first Saturday in May? It's be a good. I think it's a good competitive field. Mo Conical, who won the Wood, is coming back, and he beat Early Voting, who won the Preakness, so that certainly shows his class. You got the Philly Nest, who should be a factor. Creative Minister, as I mentioned, ran, I thought, a good race in Pimlico. The one I think, the one I want to take a real close look at once the field is all assembled, We the People, who looks really, really good in winning the Peter Pan. Speed, there doesn't seem to be a lot of speed in the race. He just might be able to get out there and canter and just kind of canter around the track with one lap and win the race. I mean, the Peter Pan has produced several Belmont winners, and I would look for him as an interesting play in the Belmont.
I agree totally, and it is shaping up to be, no shot at the Triple Crown, but a fun race. But maybe more importantly, it's going to be a fun day because I think everybody's looking forward to the Met Mile. That is shaping up as one of those weeks out that we're anticipating is potentially a race of the year, and Flightline adds a lot of that zest to the picture.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping Flightline makes it. Belmont, a real good horse corner. That's going to be a real big matchup. And I think the interesting part with that, if he wins the Met Mile and comes out of it fine, don't be surprised if he targets the Whitney next. Then you get Life is Good, Big Fine. You get throw First Captain in there. You really get one heck of a Whitney based on what we're going to see in the Met Mile. So certainly that on the undercard. The Ogden Fifth is going to be good. You have Echo Zulu coming back, and I think the Acorn, Jack Christopher in the Woody Filastresta looking at the Ogden Fifth. It's really going to be, there's no Triple Crown, but boy, that's going to be a heck of a great day of racing.
Absolutely. And Bob, we'll look for your coverage of it in the Bloodhorse. So looking forward to that. And I'll always enjoy the conversations. Appreciate it. And we will talk again.
All right, Seth. Thanks a lot. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Bob Ehalt, again, you can find him in the Bloodhorse over at America's Best Racing and other spots as well. And as I say, he was down at Baltimore, and so I thought we'd have a little Preakness commentary today. We'll continue with that a little bit later on as well. But in the meantime, we'll take a break. When we come back, just going to hit on some of the news of the day, and we will continue right after this, so stay tuned.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Birdstone is an outside threat. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. But here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Barbara. These two arch rivals hang ahead with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the top. Here's the wire.
What if there was a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. We'll have another little segment here, and then we'll be joined by Tim Wilkin in a few, who was also down at Baltimore. He was part of the Maryland Jockey Club Notes team Preakness weekend, so we'll get some of his thoughts on last weekend as well. But before we do that, some news and notes from the past few days and going back, yesterday. Nest and Mo Donegal worked out as a pair for Todd Pletcher in anticipation of the Belmont. And Nest would certainly add some storyline punch to the race. Always interesting to see a filly facing the boys in these type of races. And after the workout as a pair yesterday, Pletcher said, when I told them on the radio, the jocks to let them go and go out another eighth, both riders said both horses jumped up underneath them and showed they still had something left in the tank. So I was happy. As far as Nest potentially going in the Belmont Stakes, Pletcher is quoted as saying, pedigree-wise, it's a no-brainer. With this filly, she hasn't done anything to discourage me from continuing to think about it. So, there's still a little bit on the fence, but Nest is possible to go in. We the people, Bob Ehalt just mentioned that one, Peter Pan winner, worked about 3/4 of an hour before Mo Donegal and Nest yesterday, worked a half mile in just over 48. Trainer Rudy Brissett was aboard We the People. Very good workout, very good workhorse, Brissett said. We try to keep him between 48 and 49. I'm pretty heavy too, he said, being on board the horse. Anything like 48 and change, 101 and change is good. I never asked him for anything. He's got such a high cruising speed. So We the People from that Peter Pan win, going to be an interesting player as well. The potential field at this point for the Belmont Stakes: Barber Road, Creative Minister, Barber Road coming out of a 6th in the Derby, Creative Minister coming out of a 3rd in the Preakness, Ethereal Road potentially for Dwayne Lucas, who was the winner of the Sir Barton on the undercard last week, Golden Glider, who was 2nd in the Peter Pan, Howling Time a few days ago, won an optional claimer at Churchill for Dale Romans. Howling Time could be interesting. Kuchar won a Churchill allowance recently, and that one also may add a little bit of intrigue. Mo Donegal, Nest, Rich Strike, the Derby winner, Skippy Longstocking, who was 5th in the Preakness, and We the People, who won the Peter Pan for Rudy Brissett. So it looks like, again, a fun, interesting field. Nest will add a little bit, as I say, some storyline punch to it. Dwayne Lucas having an entrant in there. No Triple Crown on the line, but we're looking at a field of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 at this point. So potentially a nice full field, may make it a fun betting race. But whether you're intrigued by that race or not, Belmont Stakes Day is going to be a blockbuster, headlined by that Met Mile, which is looking like an awful lot of fun. In other 3-year-old news, Classic Causeway has been moved to Kenny McPeek, moved out of the Brian Lynch barn. Article, I think Marty McGee, it's a Marty McGee article from the Daily Racing Form, who said that Brian Lynch was reluctant to run Classic Causeway in the Kentucky Derby off the Colts' poor effort in the Florida Derby, but did so as at the owner's behest. Winds up 11th in the field of 20 at the Kentucky Derby. I kind of feel for trainers in that situation. The horse had shown some promise, but then threw in a dud. You don't want to go into the Derby off of a dud, but if you're an owner and you're kind of thinking, this is our shot at the Derby, and then if there's a clash between the owner and the trainer, it's just an unfortunate situation, and then to have the horse taken away. Brian Lynch, complete class, as he's quoted as saying, "You're always sorry to see a horse of his caliber leave the barn. I wish him and the connections nothing but the best." But just very tough. Classic Causeway now, however, adds to a nice group of 3-year-olds in the Ken McPeek barn. Creative Minister, Smile Happy, Rattle and Roll, Tis the Bomb, Dash Attack, and now Classic Causeway for Ken McPeek. Mandaloon continues his work pattern, going back to last Monday at Churchill, worked a little over 42nd. It was his 3rd work this month. And he's pointing towards the July 2nd Grade 1 Stephen Foster down at Churchill. So we'll see Mandaloon back another little over a month. Bobby Flay, we mentioned this earlier on the Handicappers Report, still looking towards Royal Ascot with Pizza Bianca. And again, I liked Pizza Bianca last week. She won. She looked pretty good doing it, but against that field, she was supposed to. The buyer, I want to say 77. So it was not a buyer that's jumping off the page that says, let's go to Royal Ascot. But as Anthony Mormino said on the handicapping show, Bobby Flay is in a situation where if he wants to go to Royal Ascot with Pizza Bianca, take your shot. And for him, that's a goal. And so it adds intrigue to that Royal Ascot week, certainly. The Americans who go over there always add a little fun and certainly some rooting interest for us. And so Pizza Bianca still looking towards Royal Ascot and a start across the pond, as it were. So we shall see how that all works out. And Naira has introduced kind of a fun little program here that will start on Fridays beginning July 15th. The Saratoga Racecourse, in conjunction with Old Tavern Farm, is going to have a breakfast at the track and a trolley ride to a nearby thoroughbred breeding farm. Old Tavern Farm is who they've teamed up with. And again, it will be, I believe it's every Friday, starting July 15th. Buffet breakfast at the racecourse, opportunity to watch, breakfast at the track. So you get to watch the horses work out. But then you hop on a trolley and you head out to Old Tavern Farm. You have a 90-minute guided walking tour of an active thoroughbred breeding farm, and then includes your admission later to the track for the afternoon. So should be kind of fun, informative. Another interesting innovation as far as activities at the track and morning activities at the track. So again, that'll start Fridays, kicking off on July 15th. You can go to the track, grab your breakfast, watch some workouts, and then get a tour of a breeding farm in the area as well. So as I say, another fun little addition to the activities that are available during the racing season. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will be joined by our friend Tim Wilkin, longtime racing writer, handicapper, columnist, and as I say, he was down with the Pimlico team covering Preakness weekend last week, so we'll get some of his thoughts from last weekend down in Baltimore right after this. Stay tuned. Having trouble finding us? It's actually quite simple. Whether online or on your TV, it's never been easier to watch and wager on championship horse racing with Capital OTB. Simply log on to capitalbet.com. There you can watch our morning shows, live stream races, and wager on our state-of-the-art wagering platform. You can also watch from the comfort of your home on Spectrum Cable Channel 1250 or Fios Channel 467, and win more with Capital OTB.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops, my bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
But here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob Ehalt. These two arch rivals hang ahead with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the top. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Again, last week, Preakness weekend, the second jewel of the Triple Crown, and down in Baltimore as part of the Preakness Notes team, the Pimlico Notes team for the weekend. Our friend Tim Wilkin. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you today?
Very good. Happy to have you on board to recap a little bit of that second jewel of the Triple Crown action. And before we do that, just set the scene for us what it was like down there. And I'm curious, particularly Preakness Day, because I was just watching from afar, but certainly the weather forecast was for very warm temperatures. What was it like actually on track on Saturday?
Well, the Baltimore weather handicappers were right on with their predictions on this one because it was hot. It was in the mid-90s, early in the afternoon. It sort of cooled off a little bit as they got towards race day because the sun was starting to sink a little bit. But, yeah, it was hot. Dave Joseph, who the head of the PR team down there at Pimlico, even told us we didn't have to wear shirts and ties because of the heat or jackets. So we were able to get a little bit of the swelter off of us by just wearing polo shirts. But, yeah, it was hot. And but, you know, they did a great job down there, the Maryland Jockey Club and the First Racing people, because there was stations for they had water, they had plenty of water, they had hoses, like they do it every time. You see it at Saratoga, too. Every track, I think, does a great job with it. But they had these blankets they put in ice that they could put over the horses. And I did not see one horse in any kind of distress on that hot day. So it was a win-win for everybody because they did a really good job. And it's always great. It's always a huge win when the horses come back safe.
Yeah, that is certainly very good news because that's always a concern when you get that heat and humidity and whatnot. And again, just watching from afar, I didn't see any problems either, but I was curious as to what it actually felt like to be there. Another thing I wanted to touch on, because I looked at your Twitter feed last night in prep for this, and you had retweeted something from Mike Kane, and Mike Kane had taken like a shot of the infield. And I'll get your thoughts because I've never been to Pimlico. I've never been to the Preakness. But for a long time, that infield was known as, how could you put it, raucous. But as the video showed, Mike showed, there's not a lot of tents and corporate events, it looks like, and a stage for a concert. How has the infield changed over the years for Preakness?
Well, it used to be, you know, they call it the People's Party for a reason. You know, it's like, you know, the Kentucky Derby is, you know, it's pomp and circumstances, and, you know, you go to the Preakness, it's Animal House. You know, that's just the craziness of, it's like whatever, anything goes out there. That is tempered a little bit. I mean, they used to have, you know, portable bathrooms out there all in a row. And that just encouraged the drunks to have races on top of the latrines as they were running through across all these portable porta-johns, and which it was fun for the kids, but it was also kind of dangerous when they were falling off all drunked up. But they got rid of them, and it's a big they have a big area just for restrooms, and you know they have all these corporate tents out there for the high rollers kind of, and you know they do still have the big stage. And they had music going all day, and the place was really crowded. I didn't go out to the infield because it was so hot. I usually take a trip out there just to see what it's like. But everyone was pretty well behaved. I don't think there was anything too major that happened out there. But it is a different field because it used to be it was just a wall-to-wall, you know, like Woodstock kind of thing out there where people were all over the place. But you know, I think there's so many people now that really do want to watch the races. It didn't used to be like that. You know, granted, the kids that are out there are more interested in the concerts, horses. There's no question about that. But you know, I think that you know, I remember one year, Funny Sides year, they wanted me to do a story for the Times Union when I was working for them, and they sent me out to the infield. They wanted me to find local people. And I said, how in the heck am I going to do that? How am I going to find someone local? So Ed O'Brien, our late great friend from Channel 6, was down there covering the race. And I said, come on, Ed, you got to go with me. They'll recognize you, and we'll get a local person or 10. So we walked out there. A couple of these drunks came up, and they saw Ed, and a couple of them slurred, hey, there's the weatherman. Which, of course, he wasn't the weatherman. But it served my purpose of being out there on the infield. It's a different world out there, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it looks like it had changed. But there's still the party going on out there. Which
you got to get down there because they treat media people great. I mean, that's the place where you want to go, and the bend over backwards for you, and it's you'd really enjoy yourself.
Well, and I'll add that I had Steve Bick on last Sunday, and he had been down in Baltimore, and he kind of alluded to it. It seems like for a lot of people, amongst the three jewels of the Triple Crown, Pimlico may be the least attractive facility, but Baltimore and the week of Preakness seems like maybe one of the favorite jewels of the Triple Crown for a lot of people.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's nothing against Churchill and Naira, but Baltimore, you just feel so welcome. And if you need anything, they're right there to help you. And it's you just feel good when you go down to Pimlico.
I saw you took in a ball game too.
Yeah, Mike Kane and I went over to. Mike was also working on the notes team. We went over to see the Orioles and the Yankees, and it was mostly Yankee fans in there, and it was a beautiful night. It was only 13,000 people in the stadium. It was Aaron Judge had 2 home runs, should have had 3. And even though I'm an Oriole fan, it was great to be out and see a live baseball game.
Yeah.
My first one I've seen live in the Major League level in a while.
Excellent. Well, let's get into it. Let's get some thoughts on some of the racing, and let's start out with the Preakness. And again, we'll show them coming out of the gate. Talked a little bit about this earlier and last week. I was not among the critics of Joel Rosario. I mean, I suppose he could have quarter-horsed the Epicenter out of there a little more, but it seemed like he was out there. It was just luck of the racing luck. A horse on the inside, horse on the outside closed the door on him, and then at that point, his options were very limited. So he goes to the rail, and again, that he got up for second, I think, was a great performance. But early voting, I think he validated the decision Seth Klarman and Chad Brown made to bypass the Derby. So a nice performance from him. What were your overall thoughts on the Preakness?
Great about trips, right?
Yeah.
Early voting got the trip that they wanted, and Epicenter did not. And, early voting, without a doubt, was the best horse in the race. But Epicenter ran huge in defeat again. I know that Steve Asmussen wasn't wild about the ride. He thought that Joel left the horse with too much to do after that start. He's probably right. But what's Joel supposed to do when he gets jostled around like that? And he didn't. Admittedly, he did not break well.
Yeah.
So I think that Epicenter is probably the best 3-year-old in the crop right now because he's so consistent. I think he's been first or second in his last 7. First or second in his last 7 races. So but early voting, that race set up so perfectly for him. Speed had been holding up for most of the day. And, when Armand Jack went to the lead, I'm sure that didn't phase Chad too much because I think he knew that early voting could take him whatever he wanted. And he did on the turn and just drew off. And he validated, Chad's decision to skip the Derby and head to Baltimore. It's the same pattern he did with cloud computing. And now it'll be interesting to see moving forward, because Chad's going to be loaded for bear in the 3-year-old division, Colt division, heading into Saratoga with, early voting, Zandon, Jack Christopher. It's going to be very interesting to see where he spots these horses next on his way to the Travers. Chad has always wanted the Travers. I mean, he'll say that the Derby is an important race for him to win, but I think deep down, the Travers is the race he really wants to win because, as we all know, that's his backyard, that's his home track, and that's a race that he wants real bad, and maybe this is the year he gets it.
Yeah, he is loaded, no doubt about it. I have to ask most everybody I've talked to over the past week or so about this, but I'm interested what the buzz maybe was in the press box or as you walked around on the second story coming out of the Preakness, and that was the crazy odds board. Again, I'm looking at the chart here. Running last in the field of 9 was Fenwick at 13-1, and he, an hour before the races, for a long time he was sitting at 7 or 8. Happy Jack at 11-1. Again, what was the buzz in the press box looking at those odds as they played out all day with a couple of horses that probably should have been triple digits in the odds category?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, for the longest time, I'm thinking, well, they're just putting up the wagering on track and not everywhere. But it just never moved. And I don't think there's that many people out there that, took the rich strike approach and said, well, I'm going to bet the longest shot and see what happens. But there's no way Fenwick should have been, I mean, it's like you said, the longest time he was at 7-1. Happy Jack was, I mean, those two horses should have been 80-1. It was a head scratcher for sure, and we never really got an explanation.
Yeah, it was completely insane, and all day long, people on social media were, putting up shots of the odds board, and you just have to scratch your head. It was completely an aberration of a story. I want to talk about some of the other results, and going earlier on the card, the Sir Barton. We're going to look at the stretch one. It'll be number 1, Ethereal Road. And I wanted to pull this up because you were down there all week, obviously, and I wanted to throw in, again, what was a side storyline, but clearly a fun story as well. D. Wayne Lucas had Secret Oath, but he wins earlier on the card in the Sir Barton with Ethereal Road. And it seems like, reading all the comments all week long, and you had a picture of him on your Twitter feed as well, so you were out at his barn. Seems like D. Wayne Lucas was certainly attracting a lot of attention as kind of now an elder statesman of the game. Tim.
You still? I thought I lost you for a minute.
Oh, no. Your thoughts on D. Wayne Lucas, and as I say, kind of being an elder statesman of the game.
Well, Seth, every morning, Wayne would take his horses out. He had the two of them there, and then he would just sit in the corner up in the stakes barn and hold court. And it's not like it was a ton of media there, but there was a pretty steady stream of people that would go to talk with him every day. And although he said to me, he goes, the only thing I don't like about this is that I got to keep dealing with the media wave after wave. Why don't I just have a press conference once a day and get it over with? And I said, you're not kidding me. You love doing this. You love sitting here and telling the stories and talking about your horses. And I got a sly little smile from him. And he, at 86 years old, he's still getting up on the pony riff every morning and going out with the horses. 86 years. I mean, the guy, he does walk with a cane, but that's because he's got a back issue. I mean, he still has more energy at his age than guys do in their 50s. And he's not going to stop. And the rest of his days, he's going to be at the track. With Ethereal Road, he was one of the few horses that went against the track bias because he closed to get that win. And he beat B-Doc for the West Point horses. And that horse is named for the Pro Football Hall of Famer Brian Dawkins from the Philadelphia Eagles. And now Ethereal Road, you would think, would be on the fast track to the Belmont. Because Wayne, without him scratching from the Derby, we don't have Rich Strike. So that would be kind of interesting storyline if those two horses line up in the starting gate at Belmont Park for the Belmont Stakes. But, earlier this year, there was some buzz for Ethereal Road on the Triple Crown Trail. And Wayne is very high on this horse. And he was very impressive when he won the Sir Barton. So I think that it'll be interesting to see how he goes moving forward. And the good thing about, when we're talking about the filly, she didn't run badly. I mean, she was fourth, but the good thing for the people around here is that the plan is still for her to come to Saratoga and run in the Coaching Club American Oaks and possibly the Alabama, which is great news for people that follow Saratoga. But for now, she's going to stay. She's not going to go against the boys anytime soon. But the fact to have Wayne Lucas back at Saratoga this summer, because he wasn't there at all last year, that'll be a lot of fun. I mean, he doesn't know if he's going to be up there for the whole meet, but if he ships in the Philly for the coaching club and she runs well and he wants to go for the Alabama, I would assume she'd stay. And then I'm sure Wayne would stay too. So that's a chapter yet to be written, but it's good news that she's going to have Saratoga on her schedule for the summer.
Yeah, again, Wayne Lucas adds a nice storyline because, as I say, he's kind of become an elder statesman and a story in his own right. As you say, still getting up on the horses. And also on social media, he maybe now is the poet laureate of horse racing.
Yeah. I mean, it's there was every time I walked by him, there was someone there, and he could have gotten up and left because his work was done, but he likes to hold court, and he loves Pimlico because he likes the because the stakes barn, everybody's in the same area, and it used to be that when Baffert was there, he and Bob would just go back and forth at each other in a playful way, and they do the competition, and Wayne just loves being in the center of that scrum. If he says anything different, I don't believe him, because he really, I think, enjoyed that. He liked being back on the center stage.
And you mentioned B-Doc for West Point running second in the Sir Barton, but they had a couple of wins on the weekend. And again, we'll look at the stretch run to the Pimlico Special, first captain getting it done there, but Jackson Traveler also winning the sprint. So it was a nice weekend for Saratoga-based West Point.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Terry Finley after the first captain race, and he was, I think they were a little nervous going into that because they didn't know what to make out of the stud and the Carter. And they knew he was better than that, but they couldn't find anything wrong with him. And he validated their trust in him, and he ran a huge race. Louis Saez fit that horse, and I just think that he's going to be a factor moving forward, and the Whitney could be just a bang-up race this summer if everybody stays together and they all show up. Life is good. I don't know what Speaker's Corner. I mean, I don't know what Flightline's going to do. I really don't think he'd come back east. John Sadler likes to stay out west, but it's got the earmarks of being a really, really fun race for the Whitney.
Yeah, no question. I think a lot of the early season results and the results on both of the Triple Crown days and with the undercards as well have boded well for what we might see up at Saratoga. Tim, before I let you go, I wanted to hit on one more non-horse racing thing, being a guy who has covered sports in this area for a while, or a basketball player yourself. I mentioned on the handicapping show earlier, before I left the house, I had the television on, and I saw sports from last night, and I don't follow regularly the Patroons, but the Patroons last night won with 171 points. What the heck is going on there?
Either they're really, really good, or that other team is really, really bad.
Huge.
I mean, 171 points? I mean, boy, put me out there. I might have got 6 or 7. Will Brown's done a really good job. I mean, there's no question that he's amassed a team that has been just very dominant in that league. And, I think they're 1-5 to win the championship in that league. The interesting thing for me will be is if Will sticks around for another year, because I know, I didn't talk to him, but knowing Will, he had the itch when he wasn't coaching this at the start of this. He had to get out of the house to feed his fire of being a coach, and it'll be interesting to see if he returns to the Patroons or if he looks to go back into the college ranks somewhere. But to do that, he'd probably have to move, and I don't know if. I know his family is has some deep roots here, so that'll be an interesting one. But 171 points. I mean, the Army must have been rocking. The ghosts of Bill Musselman and George Carl and Phil Jackson were probably applauding from the cheap seats.
I forgot about the Phil Jackson days.
Hey, when Phil Jackson was there, I did a diary for the Albany Patroons, went through training camp for a week. And Phil Jackson was the picture of me going through a layup line, being watched by Phil Jackson.
Oh, that's great. Oh, you have to bring that out
He
sometime.
caught me.
Yeah.
I signed a contract for $1. Those were the days.
Very.
And so I can say I'm one of the few people in the world that got cut by Phil Jackson.
Yeah, very good. You have to throw that on Twitter sometime, the picture of you in the layup. I'd love to see that. Tim, as always, appreciate it. And again, wanted to get you on because you were, again, part of that Notes team down at Pimlico last week. Just wanted to recap some of that nice action. As I say, a lot of it's going to play into Saratoga up here as well. But appreciate the conversation. We'll talk again.
I appreciate it, Seth, and get down to Baltimore one of these Preaknesses.
Yeah, no question. We got to head down because just our Florida Derby trips down there dealing with Dave Joseph and the team. We have a lot of fun down at Gulfstream, and they've invited us a couple of times to Pimlico. It just hasn't worked out so far, but we'll make it. Tim, thanks.
Thank you, Seth. Take care.
Appreciate it. Tim Wilkin, a little recap this morning of the action last week down at Pimlico in Baltimore. And as I said, the undercard, the big races and the undercards, Preakness and Derby weekend are going to play into some stakes up here at Saratoga, certainly. And in the meantime, we have Belmont Stakes weekend and a very exciting undercard as well. And some nice racing coming up this weekend. Santa Anita has some great stakes races. We'll probably try to hit on some of that action on tomorrow's show. Maybe Lone Star as well. Lone Star on Memorial Day has a big day. Coming up at the end of the week, the Penn Mile, traditionally that big day down at Penn National. They've already drawn that, so Friday down at Penn National, a nice card too, highlighted by that Penn Mile. So we'll discuss that in the week coming up. But as I say, Belmont Stakes still a couple weeks away, but there's some nice racing in the meantime with things kicking off early in the week and some nice stuff coming up at the end of the week as well. Before I wrap up, let me remind you that today here at the Clubhouse Racebook, we kick off the Exacta-Board contest, brand new fun promotion. Works, as I said, like a football squares board, numbers along the top, numbers along the side. You pick a square. If your corresponding numbers wind up with the Exacta in the designated race, you're a winner. So it should be fun here at the Clubhouse Racebook today. 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Coming up on Monday, we also have a couple of events here at the Clubhouse Racebook, as there will be some of the bigger venues in action on the Monday Memorial Day holiday. But here at the Racebook, Play the Board and a match bet promotion as well, both happening here at the Clubhouse Racebook on Monday, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, I'm Seth Merrow. This has been Racing Across America. Thanks for tuning in on this Saturday morning. As usual, we will return in about an hour and a half or so with OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon, going through some of the racing action, tossing out some ideas at the various tracks, hopefully to help us all cash some tickets. So that'll be the game plan. And as they say, about an hour and a half or so. So we will see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.